Thing, I'd like to make the first toast solo to my old buddies. Here's to you, boys. To Ryan, who died in WW1, the war to end all wars. To Gianelli, who died in the war after that. To Stein, the joker of the crowd. And to Grusky, my best friend, who just passed away in Tokyo. You were the friends of my youth, my comrades through thick and thin, and everything in between. I drink to your memories. I loved you, fellas. One and all.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody, and welcome to another episode of ADHP with Doug and Todd. I'm Doug. That's Todd. How you doing, Todd? We're recording this on Memorial. A bit of a somber mood, given the state of the world and the state of our past wars, and thinking of the people who we've lost. But we did have we do celebrate the weekend. We saw each other yesterday at a friend's barbecue, and we do toast to all those who have fallen in America's wars, whether right or wrong. We certainly remember those that served and gave it all. How you doing, Todd?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. I had fun yesterday hanging out with you guys, you and the family, and over at Silas's place.
Silas, our good buddy Silas Lindenstein. He's going to be a future guest on this show. So, for those listening that don't know him, they'll get to meet him here one day.
Yeah, man. He's a cool dude. He's I guess you could say he's a part-time comedian. He does do it once in a while. Excuse me.
We're choked up here on the podcast.
I took a swig of some juice, and it went down the wrong pipe. Anyways, so yeah, I had a good time yesterday. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing Silas on the show. Silas also performed at my wedding, so yeah, he's also available to be an officiant for those that are looking for a very well organized and awesome dude to get them hitched.
Yeah, I actually am also ordained from the Universal Life Church and the Church of Dude.
I did not know that. How long has that been the case?
I became a pastor through the Universal Life Church back in, I think, 2002. I have never used it, but I have it. And then I think about 10 years ago, I discovered that there's the Church of the Dude, so dudism. And,
as in the Big Lebowski?
As in the Big Lebowski, yeah. And I'm a minister on that as well.
Well, right on. Well, hopefully somebody takes advantage of that at some point, because that would be a marriage in the Church of Dude would be quite a thing, I think.
I don't know if it's an official thing. I don't know if you can marry people with that one, but I got it just because I wanted to say I'm a.
You could do a sham marriage.
Just at one for show, and and then they can do their legitimate thing down at the courthouse. So yeah,
right on. So today, for our main topic, we are going to talk about the history of Memorial Day, and then I am intending to tie that into the military-industrial complex, because we can never just leave well enough alone here. And so I'm going to go ahead and get into that, which this information on Memorial Day is coming from the National Cemetery Administration, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Federal holiday held the last Monday in May is the nation's foremost annual day to mourn and honor its deceased servicemen and women. Originally called Decoration Day, it was formalized by a Memorial Day order issued by the Grand Army of the Republic Commander-in-Chief John A. Logan in 1868. So this came out of the Civil War. And most importantly to me, the modern proclamation calls on Americans to, quote, observe Memorial Day by praying, according to their individual religious faith, for permanent peace. So, in the waning years of the Civil War and immediately afterward, communities in the North and South, both black and white, decorated soldiers' graves with floral honors on springtime quote-unquote decoration days. The practice of strewing flowers on graves has been documented from classical Roman times to Western Europe in the 19th century. On May 5th, 1868, the Grand Army of the Republic, a politically powerful organization of Union veterans led by Major General John A. Logan, issued General Orders No. 11, or the Memorial Day Act. This issuance formally established Memorial Day as a decoration day on which the nation would remember its war dead and decorate their graves with flowers. It was assigned to the last Monday in May so that people would have access to the most fresh and beautiful flowers possible. So that's why Memorial Day is in May. In subsequent decades, competition flourished to claim when and where the first such Decoration Day memorial gathering occurred. In one way or another, recent scholarship, however, points to the ladies of Columbus, Georgia, who in April 1866, so a couple years prior, lobbied for a clearly defined Memorial Day on which to place flowers on the graves of the Civil War dead. But there are other histories, so I'll go through the others here. So, one early Memorial Day account occurred in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, where a trio of women decorated the graves of fallen soldiers in October 1864, so another 2 years prior still. Another was held in Charleston, South Carolina, where black freedmen and white Northern abolitionist allies hosted an enormous and historically significant program on May 1st, 1865, at the Martyrs of the Racecourse, a cemetery where 257 Union dead were buried. The message conveyed by this largely black assembly honoring U.S. troops on land previously occupied by wealthy white Southerners expressed the same message as Quartermaster General Montgomery C. Meigs when he appropriated the Robert E. Lee estate to become the Arlington National Cemetery. So I actually did not know that myself, that the Arlington National Cemetery was appropriated from Robert E. Lee's estate.
Oh, wow.
That is in some ways extremely fitting, right? Because, take that guy's land and use it to bury all the people that he had a hand in causing to give up their lives to preserve the Union. At the same time, I don't know how I'd feel about having a Union war hero buried on Robert E. Lee's estate, but I think in the long run it was the right decision.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to say here that unlike that scenario, Charleston organizers could not have foreseen the temporary aspect of the racecourse site. The Army removed the dead to nearby Beaufort National Cemetery within a few years. The idea of strewing the Civil War graves of soldiers, both Union and Confederate, can be traced to Columbus, Georgia, whose city cemetery was in disarray. A Ladies' Memorial Association formed to improve it, which included a media campaign. Secretary Mary Ann Williams' letter was published first in the local newspaper on March 11th, advocating to set apart a certain day to be observed and be handed down through time as a religious custom of the country, to wreathe the graves of our martyred dead with flowers. Their date at that time was April 26, 1866.
Okay.
However, the Mississippi city of Columbus, an ongoing source of historic confusion, held its event one day earlier than the Georgia Association planned. Thus, it claims to be the first actual Memorial Day event. The Mississippi program was later immortalized in a popular poem by Francis Miles Finch, The Blue and the Gray, and national reporting in contemporary terms went viral. The April 25, 26, 1866 Memorial Day events honoring Confederate and Union dead in the South was a step toward reconciliation that reverberated nationwide, though it was predictably uncomfortable for some Northerners. But I do believe in the spirit of the holiday, which is to pray for permanent peace, whether that's a religious prayer or simply a hope, an ideal, something you strive for, something you clamor for. I think that is the lasting lesson of Memorial Day, and why it does matter that the North and South came together to observe this holiday. We aren't in the business here of promoting and celebrating rebel heroes as they're known and they're in the South, but I think it's important for peace to come together and honor those, allow them to participate in honoring their dead.
Yeah.
Now, what this brings me to is how the military-industrial complex that we live in at perhaps the height of today is a direct affront to this quest for peace. It is flying in the face of Memorial Day, and I do believe it dishonors those that have died. The military-industrial complex, and this is coming from Britannica, is a network of individuals and institutions involved in the production of weapons and military technologies. The military-industrial complex in a country typically attempts to marshal political support for continued or increased military spending by the national government. It was first used by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in his farewell address on January 17th, 1961. And in the interest of a full picture here, I'm going to read large excerpts of the transcript from Eisenhower's address. It was a speech that was less than 10 minutes long. He delivered his farewell to the American people on national television from the Oval Office. Those who expected the military leader and hero of World War II to depart his presidency with a nostalgic old soldier speech like General Douglas MacArthur had given upon his retirement were surprised at his strong warnings about the dangers of the military-industrial complex. And this section now is coming from the National Archives. So Eisenhower had served 2 terms. He was first elected in 1952 and gave up his term in January of 1961. And of course, he had lived through 2 world wars, and his generation had seen 4 wars across the globe at least. And he understood the horrors of war, and he understood the need to seek peace. So I will read from his transcript now. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. 3 of these involved our own country. Despite these holocausts, America is today the strongest, the most influential, and most productive nation in the world. Understandably proud of this preeminence, we yet realize that America's leadership and prestige depend not merely upon our unmatched material progress, riches, and military strength, but on how we use our power in the interests of world peace and human betterment. I contrast that portion of the speech to what Trump is doing in the current day, where he seeks to recede America from having its interests sought for world peace and human betterment. Trump is now currently seeking to use America's political might and military might simply in a selfish interest for what he calls good deals. But we'll see as I continue on here that Eisenhower did not see a pure military might as the way to achieve a safer world.
Yeah.
Eisenhower goes on to say, throughout America's adventure in free government, our basic purposes have been to keep the peace, to foster progress and human achievement, and to enhance liberty, dignity, and integrity among people and among nations. To strive for less would be unworthy of a free people. Any failure traceable to arrogance or our lack of comprehension or readiness to sacrifice would inflict upon us a grievous hurt, both at home and abroad. I move ahead now to perhaps the most famous part. A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known by any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But now we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend more on military security than the net income of all United States corporations.
Wow.
And he goes on. This conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense and our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together. Akin to and largely responsible for the sweeping changes in our industrial military posture has been the technological revolution during recent decades. In this revolution, research has become central. It has also become more formalized, complex, and costly. A steadily increasing share is conducted for, by, or at the direction of the federal government. Today, the solitary inventor tinkering in his shop has been overshadowed by task forces of scientists and laboratories and testing fields. In the same fashion, the Free University, historically the fountainhead of free ideas and scientific discovery, has experienced a revolution in the conduct of research. Partly because of the huge costs involved, a government contract becomes virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. For every old blackboard, there are now hundreds of new electronic computers. The prospect of domination of the nation's scholars by federal employment, project allocations, and the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded. Yet, in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific technological elite. It is the task of statesmanship to mold, to balance, and to integrate these and other forces, new and old, within the principles of our democratic system, ever aiming toward the supreme goals of our free society. And personally, I think a real important part there is the idea that the citizenry must be educated and must be informed and must be allowed at the table. That's how we help keep the industrial complex from taking over all aspects of our life. And as we've seen in the years since Eisenhower, the general public has been kept further and further out of the loop on matters of the military. And we have seen ourselves become pawns in a grander scheme of selling more military contracts. Eisenhower continues. Another factor in maintaining balance involves the element of time. As we peer into society's future, we, you and I, and our government, must avoid the impulse to live only for today, plundering for our own ease and convenience the precious resources of tomorrow. We cannot mortgage the material assets of our grandchildren without risking the loss also of their political and spiritual heritage. We want democracy to survive for all generations to come, not to become the insolvent phantom of tomorrow. And I do think a lot of people feel that that's what it has become, a phantom today, that we don't have as much say in our government as we ought to. I truly believe even Trump supporters felt that when they voted for Trump.
Yeah.
They not being educated enough on what was happening and what Trump's intentions were. I think they gave the keys to somebody who flies in the face of all of this. But I do think they were reacting to a real issue of a lack of democracy in general, the lack of a potent democracy, the lack of true choice, and the lack of the citizenry at large to truly dictate the course of the country. And Eisenhower goes on, down the long lane of history yet to be written, America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate, and be, instead, a proud confederation of mutual trust and respect. Such a confederation must be one of equals. The weakest must come to the conference table with the same confidence as we do, protected as we are by our moral, economic, and military strength. That table, though scarred by many past frustrations, cannot be abandoned for the certain agony of the battlefield. Disarmament, with mutual honor and confidence, is a continuing imperative. Together we must learn how to compose difference, not with arms, but with intellect and decent purpose. Because this need is so sharp and apparent, I confess that I lay down my official responsibilities in this field with a definite sense of disappointment. As one who has witnessed the horror and the lingering sadness of war, as one who knows that another war could utterly destroy this civilization which has been so slowly and painfully built over thousands of years, I wish I could say tonight that a lasting peace is in sight. Happily, I can say that war has been avoided. Steady progress toward our ultimate goal has been made. But so much remains to be done. As a private citizen, I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road. Of course, as Eisenhower said these words, we had military advisors already in Vietnam, and we were just 4 years away from actual engagement on Americans' part in the Vietnam War. A war that would go on to define the next 2 decades and become one of the country's greatest shames. A war that, with little doubt, was encouraged by the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower had just warned us about. And it seems now each generation is getting its embarrassing war. The boomers had Vietnam.
Yeah.
We had Iraq. Now Trump is looking to, rather than to bring everyone to the table, the weak and the strong countries, Trump is using to flex our might, to threaten Canada, to threaten Greenland, to threaten Panama. And again, I just cannot help on this Memorial Day but think about how the industrial military complex and the way it's grown since before I was born and throughout my lifetime completely and utterly flies in the face of the Memorial Days that we celebrate every single year. And that's really all I have to say about that.
Wow.
Yeah, your thoughts, Todd?
I mean, the amount of people I know that have served in the military, I can count on one hand. And before I knew them, I didn't really have much. I didn't think much of the military or soldiers in general. I just whatever. I mean, if that's what they want to do, then cool. I can't. I'm not going to. And I used to have some horrible things to say about soldiers, and I don't say those things anymore because, for one, I don't believe it anymore. I'm not going to repeat what I said, but I basically I just thought of them as it doesn't matter what I thought or what I said. Just know that I don't feel that way anymore, and that I do appreciate those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for my country and the people of my country.
And as you're saying that, Todd, I do think in my own life, like, there's not, outside of my parents and their generation, I don't know a whole lot of people that served, and I certainly know a few through comedy. I've been unfriended by some and still remain friends with others. People you'd never guess were veterans, you might come to find out are, but just in terms of people who have actually, like, there's not many people. I can't think of anyone in my family that's actually died in service. And I don't know of many people of my friends that died during Iraq or Afghanistan. But I think one of the reasons for that is because part of the military-industrial complex having its rise was avoiding public backlash like they had during the Vietnam War, which is to say, avoiding a draft. They're keeping all the middle class and upper class kids safe, and essentially just relying on people that can't afford college or don't have other great job prospects.
Right.
And so it's people, if you're in the middle class, it's people you don't even know that are sacrificing their lives now. And they're being treated like, in some cases, they're being treated expendably. They're not. We hear about the horrors that soldiers will commit because they're they're treated a certain way and put in situations that nobody should ever be put in.
Right.
And it's all in the service of the next government contract. It's all in the service of we want to come up with this new version of this weapon, and then we're going to sell the old version to Israel or whomever.
Right.
And it's just so many livelihoods now are tied to military spending, whereas we're only putting the poorest into the battlefield.
Yeah. It just in. I mean, it's to be perfectly honest, the only thing that I associated with this holiday for a lot of years was it was an extra day on the weekend, and it was
right.
It was a weekend that my family would have a barbecue, and everybody would come over, and we would sit around and just shoot the shit and eat food, and
which is what we did yesterday.
Yeah, and
to that extent, I would like to think that the people that have laid down their lives for our country would want us to celebrate. They wouldn't want us to be moping and sad about it. They would want us to exercise those freedoms that they fought for. And so I do think having a good time on Memorial Day weekend is nothing to feel bad about, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to news of the week now. Do we want to play a...
Yes, let me pull that up here real quick.
And now it's time for our weekly news. We're breaking down the key stories shaping our world, from policy shifts to the latest in global affairs. Let's dive in.
All right, thanks for that, Todd.
Yeah, no problem.
So, for news of the week this week, we're gonna look to Aaron Parnas. Like to send a little attention his way. Aaron Parnas is essentially a Gen Z journalist.
Okay.
And we're gonna take these topics from his Substack. So we definitely encourage you to check out Aaron Parnas' Substack. That's AARONPARNAS.substack.com. So here's the stories that Aaron was covering from this past week. So we'll do a smattering of these stories. For the full list, you'll have to check out his Substack. It's free to describe for his regular updates, and there's also premium options if you really want to get involved. So Leonardo Garcia Venegas, a 25-year-old U.S. citizen, was handcuffed and detained during an immigration raid in Foley, Alabama, despite carrying a valid real ID.
I saw that video even.
What's that?
I saw the video of that, him getting tackled, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Authorities allegedly dismissed the ID as fake and used force to detain him, with bystanders shouting that he was a citizen. Garcia said the handcuffs were applied painfully and that he was only released after providing his social security number, which confirmed his citizenship. So here we have another incident of guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
And just essentially profiling somebody. According to his cousin, Mr. Venegas has limited English, and his appearance, of course, he is notably Hispanic looking. So they profiled him. They absolutely profiled him.
Yep.
And the fact that you can arrest somebody, even though they have a real ID, like what's the purpose of having identification if they can just say it's fake until you prove otherwise?
Right. I thought the point of the real ID was that you had to give so much information to get it that if you have one, it's legitimate. So I don't know.
Yeah, you would. That's the point. But as we can see with the Trump administration, the greater point for them is to terrify anybody who might not be legal.
Yeah.
Also along this line, a federal judge has again ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of an immigrant deported to Mexico without a proper credible fear review. This person, only identified as OCG, had previously been raped and targeted in Mexico for being gay. This marks the third time a judge has ruled that the administration must take action to bring someone deported back, citing the deportation as unlawful. And it sucks because even reporting on this is sort of doing their job for them, because they don't care if it's unlawful. They don't care if they get smacked by a judge. The fact that this is coming out and they're doing it anyway is meant to put the fear of God in people so that they'll start self-deporting.
Right.
And then in another troublesome story, this one with direct threats to our national security, the Trump administration has placed over 100 National Security Council officials on administrative leave as part of a major restructuring led by Marco Rubio. The shakeup is aimed at consolidating foreign policy decision-making at the top, and staff were given 30 minutes to clear their desks or arrange later pickups if off-site. So this is a dramatic shift in the NCC's structure, and basically, again, it's just trying to make it so that there's not. They would sell this as they're thinning out the bureaucracy and streamlining decision making, but really what they're doing is they're streamlining decision making. Yeah, they're taking away checks and balances and just putting things at the top of the politicians' hands so that they can essentially wave their hand and have a political event occur, make political decisions instead of actual national security ones.
Okay. Wow.
But while they supposedly streamline things and try and cut out waste, meanwhile, security for Trump administration border czar Tom Homan costs over $1 million per month, including approximately $500,000 in agent salaries and additional expenses such as airfare, hotels, and travel. Multiple administration sources told CBS News the high prices raised concerns among Trump allies who are focused on government spending. So again, not even, he does the high profile things where he can flash lights and say, hey, look at this cutting we're doing. Meanwhile, they will spend whatever they want on their own people.
Right.
And then in further attempts to change the culture of America, we've heard a lot about Harvard in recent weeks and how the administration is trying to strong arm them into not having DEI, into acquiescing to requests for student information. There was a recent request where they wanted Harvard to turn over information even on non-immigrant students, and it wasn't clear if that meant like every student or specifically foreign nationals who are not immigrants. They just said non-immigrant students, which could literally be any student that's not an immigrant, like an American citizen. They wanted information on them to prove their status or any crimes that they may have committed or anything like that, because they wanted to essentially, my take is they wanted to filter through that and see if there's anybody they could kick out of the country.
Right.
But furthering the anti-DEI stuff that they're trying to do to Harvard, Elise Martin Smith, a student leader at Harvard, had been planning the annual Black student graduation to celebrate Black culture and identity with music, poetry, and a keynote by 1619 Project creator Nicole Hannah-Jones. However, in early May, Harvard informed her the event could not be held on campus. The decision came amid a wave of cancellations of affinity graduations at universities nationwide, following threats from President Trump to cut funding and accreditation from schools that maintain diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Despite the setback, though, thankfully, Martin Smith worked to relocate the event off campus, while criticizing Harvard for prioritizing public relations over student needs. And lastly, the Trump administration denied North Carolina's request for FEMA to fully cover the costs of debris removal after Hurricane Helene. The state had sought 100% federal funding due to the storm's impact, but the administration declined, leaving North Carolina to absorb part of the expenses. Now, the thing you might remember about this, for those that have been paying attention back during the election cycle, Biden pledged to have FEMA fully cover the costs for Hurricane Helene, while Trump was actively saying that the Biden administration had no money for North Carolina because they diverted it to take care of immigrants. It was a complete lie by Trump. But He was out here saying that you need to elect me so that you can get the actual help because the Biden administration is diverting all your money to immigrants. So what do we see here? Trump doesn't even follow through on his own promises.
Of course not.
No. So that's it for the regular news of the week. You want to take us to What's Geek this week, Todd?
I do.
Welcome to What's Geek this week. We're going over the coolest in pop culture, tech, and nerdy news. Let's dive in.
All right. Hey, yeah, so the first story I have here, guys, I actually wasn't even aware this was even happening, but apparently there is a TV series coming from the Stephen King's It. I think it's even the same universe as the theatrical version of the story. And they dropped a trailer for the new movie. Let's see here. Welcome to Derry is the name of the show. And let's see here. The series is set to premiere this fall, and we have a new teaser trailer to show new batch of kids with all new fears, all being perpetuated by the same killer clown. Check out the trailer. Okay. No synopsis has been dropped for the series, but is based on what we've seen in the trailer. It looks like the show is going to focus on a whole new group of kids who are going to find out the clown is behind all the scary things happening in the town. The It lore has this thing where the Pennywise surfaces every 27 years. So for this series, it takes place in 1962. What that means that Pennywise' next appearance would be the one in 1989, when he runs into the Losers Club from the first movie. Watch out for it. Welcome to Derry when it premieres on HBO Max this fall. And I haven't watched the trailer. We're gonna be posting these in the description of the podcast, so you can check out the links to everything and you can see the trailer for yourself. I'll probably watch it later. I just grabbed the story because I hadn't even heard of this series coming out, so I was like, "Oh, sweet."
And have there been one or two of the modern It movies?
Part one was when they were all kids. Part two, the second movie, was when they were all adults. And same with the original. There was two parts, but the original was a made-for-TV movie, and so episode one was when the kids were all in like middle school, and then in the second episode, they were all like in their 30s or something. So I think they did pretty much the same thing in the theatrical release. The only difference being is that it's Skarsgård versus Curry. So as far as the clown goes.
And did you say that Skarsgård which Skarsgård is it? Is it Peter Skarsgård?
No, I don't remember the first name. I just know he's one of the Skarsgård brothers, and he's returning as Pennywise in the series. So
that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
So it is going to be the same actor.
So it's going to be him playing the same clown that was in the most recent It movies, Stephen King's It movies. So, and it's going to be a new group of kids apparently. So that will be cool. And then
I have to admit, I have not watched I have not watched any of the It movies, even the Tim Curry ones.
We'll talk off air. I have those movies if you want to watch them at some point, So, the next story I have here is from comicbook.com, and I just saw the title of it, and I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to read it now. But basically, it says 7 DC characters the Arrowverse did better than the movies, and honestly, the Arrowverse, the CW, DC TV shows were all 150% better than anything that DC and Warner Brothers has done in theatrical releases in probably, I don't know, since Michael Keaton was Batman. Honestly, I'm not a Christian Bale Batman fanboy, so I know Jamal likes that Batman. I do not. So this the article here says the Arrowverse gets a bad rap for ruining characters, which is, I don't know anybody who says that. So I don't know where they got that from. The franchise throws important figures from the DC comics into shows that feature their fair share of melodrama, cringe-worthy moments, and wild storylines. Well, okay, there's a little bit of that. Maybe that's why they think it's bad. I don't know. I always like the shows. It's hard to look past it all. However, the Arrowverse has some genuinely great characters, such as Oliver Queen, who goes from a small-town vigilante to the hankering for killing to a godlike figure that saves the multiverse from annihilation. Part of what makes the Arrowverse Oliver so easy to like is that he doesn't have a movie counterpart. But plenty of characters that appear in the CW also show up on the big screen. Batman has a small role in the Batwoman and even shows up during Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. Unfortunately, he never gets enough screen time to give him a fair shot to outdo the likes of Michael Keaton's Dark Knight. These Arrowverse characters, however, leave their movie versions in the dust. And the version of Bruce Wayne we get in the Arrowverse was the voice of Batman for like 20-something years. It's and my brain, of course, decided to like not let me know who that name is right off the top of my head. Kevin Conroy, thank you. So yeah,
was it from the animated series?
Yeah, the animated series. Batman appeared as Bruce Wayne on an episode of Batwoman, and he was not a good guy in this one. I was like, oh, okay, he's kind of the Elseworlds Batman, where he's not a good person and he's, kind of a tyrant and whatnot. But also, if you haven't seen it, I recommend, if you like any of the DC stuff, honestly, I recommend checking out the shows because they're entertaining. Are they great? Probably not, but they're better than all the DCEU stuff. So, they have a list of characters here, 7 characters. Number 1 on the list is Tyler Hoechlin's Superman. It says Christopher Reeve, his Superman is the gold standard for the big screen superheroes. There's no doubt that, however, his movies don't explore a major aspect of the character. His family, Superman and Lois, while only loosely based on the connected to the Arrowverse, the show it shows what life is like when Clark has to navigate being a father and a hero. His character grows so much during the show's run, proving there's more to the Man of Steel than his strength, like the DC Extended Universe would have you believe. And honestly, the Superman and Lois TV series was really good. The characters all originated within the Arrowverse, but once the crossover, that last crossover happened, that version of Superman and Lois and all the characters within that show split off from the Arrowverse and no longer part of the multiverse of the other shows. And the show is about, like it says, him being a dad. He's got twin boys, and I don't want to give any spoilers away from anybody who hasn't seen the show, who might want to see the show, but I will say that his children at some point do acquire some of his abilities. So I won't say who, or if it's both, or if it's one or the other. You'll have to watch to find out. So you have the whole teen angst thing happening, and then of course all of a sudden you have some of your dad's abilities, and you find this out So it's like within an episode or two after them finding out their dad is the Man of Steel, like one of them gets some powers, and then at some point the other one also. So I guess I fucking ruined it anyways. But either way, watch it. It's a good show. It really is, and they filmed it in the same locations as Smallville. So if you like Smallville, you'll see a lot of the same physical locations, and while the actors are all different. So it's, I mean, some people might have issue with that, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I was bummed when it got canceled, or it ended rather. Number 2 on this list is The Flash, which is my personal favorite of the entire group of CW DC shows because it was lighthearted. It had some funny moments in it. It had lots of action. It had really cool special effects. The gear that he has throughout the series progressively gets cooler as the show continues to grow and has a bigger audience. And so DC starts saying, "Oh yes, you can do this. You can have that suit. You can do this." And initially, he's wearing like what looks like a leather, like a biker suit, like a motorcycle suit. But it becomes more and more of a superhero suit as the show goes.
And didn't the version of the Flash that was actually in the DCEU, didn't he become like really problematic, or they become really problematic?
Yeah. So the actor who played the big screen version had some mental health issues to the point where he was, he was attacking people on the street. And he just would randomly attack people. And then he also had this thing where he took someone who was underage across state lines without the parents' permission or something. So there's that as well. So he's, yeah. And then, which is one of the reasons why that movie got pushed back like 3 times. It was supposed to be released like right around the beginning of the pandemic. And then a lot of that stuff happened. They started getting into the news, doing all this weird shit, and so they just kind of pushed it back, hoping that they could get him into some sort of mental health counseling or like maybe some medications to help balance out his whatever is going on within their head. I keep saying him because visually he looks male, but he's non-binary.
He plays a male when he plays the Flash.
Yeah. When he's playing Barry, he's presenting as male, but they are rather. And so, yeah, he actually, they also make a brief appearance in one of the CW crossovers, and I think it might have been the one with the Infinite Universes crossover.
Yes. Yeah.
And he goes, and in fact, the small screen version goes, "So you're also the Flash?" He goes, "The Flash? That's a cool name." And then he disappears. So, yeah.
So they name themselves there. The Flash to another.
The CW Barry Allen gives the DCEU Barry Allen the name of the Flash. Yeah.
But at least the Arrowverse gives you a less problematic Flash if you really are a fan of the Flash.
Yeah, if you like the Flash and you really didn't like that movie, you're gonna love the TV series, because the TV series, number one, you see all the interconnected like relationships within all the other characters on the show, and you see a lot of really cool DC characters on that show. Like Firestorm makes an appearance for a couple seasons. We see Hawkgirl. We see Deathstroke. We see Captain Cold, and at one point during one of the crossover episodes, at the very end of the episode, like really at the very end, like the last 3 or 4 seconds, you see Gleek from the Super Friends, the space monkey. And Doug is like, I don't know what
Gleek?
that is.
Is that what you said his name was?
Gleek. His name is Gleek. Yeah, he's the Wonder Twins' pet monkey. So
like when you squirt saliva from the bottom of your tongue at a person.
That's his name. Yeah, Gleek. Yeah. If you've never seen the Super Friends, I highly recommend it, especially if you like DC superhero stuff. It is really cheesy because it is late 70s, early 80s superhero stuff. So Gleek is he's a purple. He's like a lavender purple and a dark purple colored monkey, and is voiced by Michael Bell. And Michael Bell also does Zan, who's the male twin. There's a female twin and a male twin, and their powers are when Wonder Twin powers activate and they touch each other like bumping fists. And she can turn into any animal she wants, and he can turn into anything that is water related. So he form of a bucket of water.
So that explains that Family Guy gag that I never understood.
Yeah. That was a Super Friends reference. So at the very end of this episode, I can't remember what season it was. It was, I think 4, maybe 5, season 5. At the end, it was during a crossover episode where Oliver Queen buys the building that would become the Hall of Justice. And you see a crate, an animal crate, a carrier for animals, and it says Gleek, but it's like G.L. Spelled out like that, and I guess it's an acronym, I guess. But you can hear him like making noises, his style of monkey noises off in the distance, like he got out of his cage. And that was the last thing you see in that episode. So I was like really excited to see the season premiere for the following season. And I was like, they didn't do it because that was the end of that season was right before the pandemic. So
Gotcha.
It was like, so that would have been like 2019, 2018, thereabouts. All right. So the third person on this list, and I haven't even gone through all 7 of these yet. Let me just go through these lists real quick. Deathstroke, Iris West, Katana, Deadshot, Martian Manhunter, and that's it. I mean, and these were all done, I think, considerably better than the DCEU. And
that's the point they're making here, right? Is that if you're a fan of DC Comics, or especially of these particular characters, you definitely want to check out the Arrowverse because you're getting a more thorough version. You're getting closer to the source material stuff, is what we're. So whether it's Superman or the Flash, which of course are more popular characters, this is still Arrowverse is a great place to go get those two. Yes. But then for more niche characters that like Deathstroke, Iris West, Katana, and Martian Manhunter and Deadshot, like this is definitely where you want to go to see those characters played out. Yeah, and Martian Manhunter is a character that shows up as a regular over on the Supergirl series. So if you like him, that's where you'd want to go watch. All right, so now that I've kind of gone on that a lot, I apologize, folks. All right, so we endorse the Arrowverse, I think, is what. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I was really bummed when it was announced that they were not going to continue. I'm intrigued by this Voltron live action movie. Yeah, I'm gonna skip this Superman one. I'm gonna delete that. I don't know why I have that there. Voltron, and honestly, I grabbed this because I didn't know there was a live action Voltron coming. Yeah, I didn't either until. So Voltron's live action movie wraps filming with promising update for release. Again, I didn't know this was even a thing until like late last night. So Voltron's live action officially kicked off its production last year, and Voltron has now offered a promising update for its release as a new film has wrapped. Voltron might first have been debuted in the 1980s, and the animated series has since become a massive franchise. Not only was it originally adapted from an anime series, Beast King, Go Lion, and Armored Fleet, Dire Rugger 15, but has since gotta love those anime names, right? I mean, it's got to be like a direct like English to Japanese translation, or vice versa, rather. But it says here, but has since gone down to form its own identity with some notable reboots of its own in the decades since. Now the whole new take on the franchise is coming our way. My question, though, is it going to be
as goofy as the Power Rangers was, or is it going to be like, I don't know, because I always thought Power Rangers was a rip-off on this
Voltron?
on Voltron.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
But the thing is Voltron and the original cartoon for Voltron and the original Japanese show for Power Rangers both came out in the 70s. So, and there was a bunch of different shows that all had that same kind of formula where you had 4 or 5 teenagers who wore like these matching uniforms that were different colored, and they had vehicles that would also match their uniforms and stuff. It says here that a live-action take on Voltron has been one of the franchises that Hollywood has been trying to get off the ground with a film project for many years, and it finally started moving forward last year when Amazon MGM Studios officially greenlit the project. Then, with the new casting announcements coming in the months since, the filming for the live-action Voltron officially began with new updates from World Events Productions. It's now been confirmed that Voltron has wrapped filming as fans have gotten a promising new update from behind the scenes. Okay, where is it? I love it when these articles will fucking just chew on that piece of information for 4 pages and then at the very bottom say, oh yes, it will. We don't know when it's going to be released.
Yeah. No, I know these things are just about getting, it's just about clicks.
It's clickbait. It really is. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there is an actual.
And we take the bait, so you don't have to, folks. We'll try and get down to the net.
I just saw that there was a live action one, and I'll check it out. Yeah, I fell for it. Totally did.
But it does say a release date or window has yet to be announced, and
okay, you found it. Okay, yeah,
it'll be directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber, who did Red Notice and Central Intelligence, with a script that Thurber wrote with L. Shanman. And then it mentions who the producers are.
Oh.
And it's going to feature the introduction of Daniel Quinn Toy as the lead role. So, again, that's somebody we've never heard of, and we'll see how it is. They definitely sound excited by what they've produced. It's not coming out as right. Oh, this is going to be rough.
In the paragraph right below that, it says the cast of live-action Voltron film also includes the likes of Henry Cavill, Sterling K. Brown, Rita Ora, John Kim, Alba Baptista, Samson Kayo, and Thariana
Theron.
Yeah.
And, of course, Henry Cavill and Sterling K. Brown are pretty big names there.
Yeah. And Rita Ora, I recognize her name, but I don't know if I could put a face to it. Oh, wait. Rita Ora. Shit. She's one of the judges on The Masked Singer. That's why the name sounded familiar. Okay. And I don't recognize any of the other names. But yeah, Henry Cavill, I wonder who he's playing. I wonder if he's playing the Red Lion or whatever. Or the Black Lion.
I do love Cavill's dedication to nerddom, because he takes on, whether it's playing Superman or his Warhammer 40,000 stuff, he really playing The Witcher, he really dives into his nerd fandom background and brings it to the fans and tends to give the fans what they want.
Right, yeah. And I think that's the first time I've ever heard someone call it 40,000. I've always heard it as 40K, but that works.
Well, I've never played.
I haven't either, but I have a handful of people I know that play or have played in the past. And then the last story I have for the geeks this week is, I think I've talked about this before, actually, if this is what I'm thinking. Oh, yeah, it is. It's the Star Wars deleted scene proves that George Lucas was already thinking about the special editions in the 70s. He wasn't really thinking about the special editions as much as he wanted to do more that he couldn't afford to or didn't have the technology to do those things. And so I think he was planning on just doing callbacks to those characters once he had the ability to do those things. And so yeah, this is a scene, the deleted scene in the original movie, which is Star Wars, folks, not A New Hope. It wasn't called A New Hope until 1982. So stop it. Sorry, I don't mean to be that nerd. So yeah, there was a scene in the original movie that was cut, and I saw it way back in the day on a behind the scenes film where Han Solo meets up with Jabba the Hutt, and he's like,
I think we've talked about this.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's really all this is, and it was not really he was planning on doing the special editions. That wasn't. I don't think that's what he was trying to do at all. Although he ended up, I mean, up until he sold Lucasfilm to Disney, he was still fucking around with those movies and making changes and stuff. I was like, dude, stop! You made a masterpiece. Leave it alone. So
he can never stop tinkering with it. He's not the best director, but
yeah, I mean,
he's more of an idea man.
I had some cool ideas. I mean, he took those ideas from other people, but he had some cool ideas. So I think that is all for the Geeks. What is Geek this week? And then I have a couple different stories here for the
final segment of our
final
show.
segment.
And that's some weird shit, where we dig up the craziest, quirkiest stories and make you go, what the heck just happened? Buckle up, it's about to get weird.
All right, this first one is actually a story I remember seeing like 4 or 5 years ago, and I actually talked about it when I was on the Not About You podcast with my cousin, and we, I think it broke Jamal. He's like, "What the fuck?" We was reading this story. This man spends 12,000 pounds to become a dog and practice rolling, sitting, and paw. This guy spent a lot of money, like 15.
I've seen this guy. Yeah.
15 grand. I think he's in Japan too. So it's like millions of yen or whatever. And he gets this realistic collie, like a border collie. Like Lassie Collie, not Border Collie, Lassie Collie. So like the brown and white, and I mean, if you saw a photo of this, you would think it was either like a stuffed animal or like a taxidermied like dog. But it's like this guy in a costume, and he walks around on all fours, and you wouldn't be able to tell this was a human being just by looking at the photos. It says here, Japanese man who goes by the name Taco the dog can often be spotted rolling on the floor and greeting confused passerbys in the park. He has since raked in a following of over 73,000 people on YouTube. Taco has been living his dream of turning canine for years, but despite his efforts to transform into his favorite breed, he still wasn't satisfied. He took his ambitions one step further by announcing that he would open a facility called Toko Toko Zoo for 250 pounds. Visitors can dress up as an Alaskan Malamute with hyper-realistic costumes with a jaw that opens and closes. However, his bookings were not looking good at the start of this month.
I can't imagine why. So I think is that 250 euro? Is that what
I think it might be euro. I was saying pounds, but yeah, euro.
But that's insane. That's an insane amount of money to go pretend to be an animal.
And there's a photo of someone else, or maybe it's him dressed as a Malamute. I mean,
it's very realistic.
Yeah, it takes being a furry to a whole new level, man.
Yes,
because the average furry, number one, isn't trying to be that animal. They're wearing basically the sporting events have mascot. That's the word I was looking for. They're wearing a mascot costume, and they're very cartoon looking most of the time.
Right.
And the average furry is not some weird freak of a person who wants to be a dog or a cat. They like wearing ears, just like you like wearing a baseball cap or whatever. It's a different thing. So, and I've known people who's like, well, furries they're all perverts. It's like, no, there are perverts within the furry community, but there's perverts in every community.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, this takes that to a whole different level because these costumes legitimately do not look like costumes.
Although, the Malamute one is particularly realistic looking. The collie one is kind of horrifying.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't think I would. I don't. Well, first of all, even if I wanted to do something like that, I am too thick to be able to do that. So.
Yeah, I'd have to be some sort of anime dog that's more like a Pokemon.
I would not be a dog, number one. I would probably be like a miniature African elephant or something. a miniature elephant. That's it.
A baby elephant.
Yes, a baby elephant. And then the next story we have here is something that Doug found, and I actually think I saw it too, but I didn't think of it being a story to talk about. But it is. I think it's pretty cool once I looked at it. It says here, Indy 500 to host first ever Oscar Mayer Wienermobile race.
Yeah, I thought this was weird.
I didn't really know that there was more than one. I legitimately thought there was one Wienermobile, and
this was my introduction to the fact that there are various Wienermobiles all across the country doing their region.
Yeah.
Which explains why I could see it so much, like why I've seen it so many times in my life.
Right. Says here, Indianapolis 500 fans can spend Friday afternoon watching Oscar Mayer's 6 iconic Wienermobiles come to town for the inaugural Weenie 500. No, they don't call it that, do they? Oh no, that's funny.
And the trophy is the North Wiener trophy.
Of course it is. Says the race scheduled for Friday 2 p.m. during the race's annual Carb Day festivities. The Weenie 500 race at Indy 500. Dig deeper. I can read. I really can. Dig deeper. It marks the first time in a decade all 6 vehicles in the company's fleet will be in the same location, and it's the first time they've ever raced. So I'm wondering if they actually are just racing them with the stock engines, or did they spend time and money to like beef them up a little bit, or?
As far as I know, so I do have a story here from after the race. So we do have a winner we can announce.
Okay.
But as far as I know, it's just the stock Wienermobiles. They must have decently beefy engines just because they got to carry all that weight. Of the large vehicle. They probably have semi truck engines, diesel engines, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And diesel engines are really powerful, but I don't know how fast they can go. Although I've seen semi trucks race, and they can be very fast.
So it was a down-to-the-wire race. This is coming from the AP. In a down-to-the-wire race among the 6 iconic Wienermobiles, the hot dog on wheels representing the Southeast proved to be the big dog on Carb Day, ahead of Sunday's running of the Indianapolis 500. They were that particular Wienermobile was known as Slaw Dog. It made a dramatic pass of the Wienermobile from Chicago to finish it won by about half a bun, they say.
Oh my!
That's absolutely. This is definitely a good story for this segment, and I'm glad you found it. I mean, I saw it like I said, I wasn't thinking, oh, that would be a great story for it, because what I saw was a video on TikTok, and it showed the cars going around the track. No, I didn't watch the whole video. I just like, okay, whatever, and I skipped it. But what I'm curious is did they go like really fast, or did they just do like pace car stuff where they just went around a few times and kind of like they would just do like the mock racing where they're just kind of like, hey, we're kind of like, I look like I'm gonna bump into you, but we're not really gonna touch because those are expensive vehicles and they don't.
Right, I'm sure there was no bumping, no rubbing in this racing, but apparently they went for 5 miles. So,
oh wow,
I don't know how large the Indy track is. But that might be 2 laps, or it might be 5 laps. I'm not sure.
I think it might be 5. I don't know, honestly. Let's see here. Let's Echo. How many laps are in the Indy 500?
Well, it's 500 miles.
Did that answer your question?
No.
Thanks for your feedback.
It's at the 2020, and then it stopped. I don't know.
I could probably Google this better than. So, How long is the Indy 500 track?
There you go.
And when I press enter, it's supposed to search. Apparently, the internet is not working right now.
It's being used by someone doing a podcast, I think. So yeah, it's however long the Indianapolis 500 is. That's how I would imagine they probably did. I don't know.
Okay, here we go. So it's 2 laps because the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is 2.5 miles long.
Okay,
So their 5 miles was 2 laps.
okay, okay. That would track because they're big vehicles and you don't want to. And they're supposed to be able to tour around their region. So if you break one of them, they won't be able to do what they normally do.
Yeah, you don't want to push them to their limits. But apparently they were doing enough to get a pass right at the end. So that's exciting.
All right, the last story on the that's some weird shit is orcas abandoned in a
This one's less fun.
shuttered marine park, filmed in an algae infested pool months after closure. Oh, it's a video. Oh my god, I don't want to watch that video. I'll look at the screenshots of it though. France's last 2 captive orcas were filmed stranded in an algae-infested marine park near Cannes months after it closed, leaving the fate of the marine mammals uncertain. Animal activists have circulated footage of the killer whale's plight in hopes that the French government will rehome them before it's too late. I was seeing something that it wasn't just the orcas, there was also dolphins in there too, I think.
There may be also dolphins at this location.
The orcas need to be removed from dangerous conditions that are posing significant risk to their health and safety, pleaded Marquita blah 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 blah, because I'm not going to pronounce that name.
It's a French name.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I butchered the first name. Co-founder of the animal advocacy group Tidebreakers, which shared the heartbreaking video, Southwest News Services reported.
And there are 12 dolphins also stranded at this park.
Yeah.
And if you look at the pictures, they're just, and we of course link all our stories in the podcast description, so please take a look at that.
Yeah.
It's really sad because it's just green water that they're in, and right now they're basically looking. Their kind of only option left is perhaps to get rehomed to a site in Nova Scotia, but France is actually being really hard on them trying to move them, saying that like we need to make sure they're moved to a good place. Meanwhile, they're letting them suffer in this abandoned facility.
Yeah, I don't know if algae is bad for them, because doesn't algae happen in the wild too?
But I don't think when you're in the wild, you're in open ocean, and it's not like you're in a place that's
you're not being
algae.
Suffocated by it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense actually.
And it's mostly just the fact that it's abandoned, and they're not being fed. How long is their care gonna happen?
Who's
I'm sure
feeding
people
them?
are coming in to feed them right now, but that's not going to happen forever.
Maybe they're feeding them. They're not doing anything about the poor conditions of the water, and they're not cleaning the tank or whatever.
Yeah. And they can't release them into the wild because they were both born in captivity, and they wouldn't be expected to survive.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, especially when you're used to being fed by humans, like they would just probably wander up to a boat and expect the people on the boat to feed them fish. That wouldn't be good. All right, well, I think that is it for this week as far as the show goes. So I should
and just a reminder for everybody, I was on the Not About You pod with Jamal, and Marianne was not able to make it, so it was the Not About You pod with Jamal and Jack Cameron, who's a interesting writer from TacomaStories.com. He covers a lot of murders and that kind of stuff, so it's definitely gets to some weird stuff in there too.
Yeah.
So we'll put a link to that podcast if you want to check that out. And then once again, I do want to mention aaronparnas.substack.com. That's where our news of the week came from this week. AARONPARNAS.substack.com.
All right, guys. And don't forget, if you're not following us on social medias, go to adhd.rocks and you'll find all the links to all these socials and where you can listen to the podcast on your favorite podcasting app if you're watching on YouTube or on twitch.tv.
TV.
Yeah.
And if you are on YouTube, please give us a like.
Yes.
Make a comment, leave us some feedback, ask a question. We will answer any good faith questions in our next episode.
Yeah.
So please feel free to interact.
I will absolutely block trolls, so don't. All right.
You always scare them away, Todd.
I don't want trolls, man. I get enough of them already.